Good afternoon, guys. It's Workin, bringing you a quick update on Bitcoin. Hope you guys are having a wonderful afternoon. Very happy Monday to everybody. Hope everyone had a great weekend. I do apologize for not getting you a Sunday update on Bitcoin, guys. Sometimes you just have to step away from the charts, guys, and that's exactly what I did. And it usually happens on days when I come back a little frustrated because things ended up playing out the way that we expected. And yeah, it could have been very profitable for me. But you know what? Family first, right? All right, guys, we're looking at Bitcoin to the US dollar 4-hour chart on Coinbase. Last time we spoke, guys, Bitcoin was just, I believe, getting ready to break down out of this $11,000 range, 11,050-ish, somewhere thereabouts, guys. I did tell you if we did end up breaking down, the next area I'd be looking at is this $10,650 zone, guys. If you remember, I told you I was not going to play the bounce there because we were, if I zoom out here to the daily, we were breaking out of this larger symmetrical triangle, and I told you if we ended up breaking down, we could break down with force, and typically that's going to take out your major areas of resistance usually fairly quickly, at least the first one or two, as we talked about. So this is why I said I said we might get a bounce there. You know, we might. I think the exact words I used were, I'm not going to play it because it's too risky for my blood. May not be a bad idea if you want to. Just have a tight stop, somewhere along those lines. But this is why I wasn't going to play this, guys, because, again, we were coming out of a symmetrical triangle here. We knew that if it did break out, it very likely was going to break out with strength. And of course, then in that case, the areas of support right below it were very likely going to get taken out. And of course, that's exactly what we did see. We saw 11,000 just get on the daily completely disregarded. The $10,650 mark completely disregarded on the daily. You know, we zoom in here on the 4-hour. Yeah, a little bit of a bounce here. Very, very small little bounce there off of. I mean, almost not even noticeable there at that $10,650 zone. So that was your first red. Actually, that wasn't your first, but that was a big red flag. And then, of course, guys, the area that I told you that I would likely play was this 10,000 to really $9,950 zone, which, in all fairness, guys, again, I took off yesterday, so I did not play, and I did have some buy orders sitting down there, guys, which are in profit. But to be fair, guys, had I been sitting on my computer, I would have taken much larger move. But again, family first, guys. So we did get our bounce right where we would expect it, $9,950. We wicked below it a little bit, which of course we could accept. We saw that back here as well, a little wick below that there. That's no problem at all. Nice little bounce. Now the question is, how far are we going to go up? First of all, let me say this. Not financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I'm just going to say, me personally, the buy order that I did get filled down here, I have now increased my stop loss. And again, this is just me telling you what I'm doing. This is not financial advice, but I have now increased my stop loss to where I'm going to be in profit. Although even if I got stopped out, I would be in profit. My stop loss is now increased to about 10,000. I think I put it right below this wick. Let me go back and check. Stand by. There we go. All right, yeah, $10,080. So I've increased my stop loss there, guys, $10,080. So no matter what happens here, I will be in profit. And again, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. I would just say be very, very careful here. Could this thing come up and head right back up to 11,000? Yeah, it certainly could. And if we break above 11,050, I will start to look at targets at 11,500-ish, somewhere thereabouts, guys. But until that does happen, guys, again, we just broke out fairly strong, guys. The trend now, the short-term trend, of course, is bearish. Now, to be fair, we have not yet taken out this prior low here. If I come back out here to the daily, paints a much better picture of what we should be looking at here. While we did end up closing our daily candle below here, guys. So yes, we did have a much more aggressive break to the downside here. We did not have our nice tweezer bottom like we had here. We did not have our obvious reversal like we had here. So yes, this would suggest possible continuation to the downside. But again, to be fair, we have not taken out the prior low of this structure here, and that prior low is at about $9,650 on Coinbase. So, you know, until that is taken out, you know, on the higher time frames, technically we are still consolidating. Let's wait and see how it plays out here. I do think this $10,650 zone, I do think that's going to be pivotal if this does start to act as a major resistance. If we do get a strong rejection here, guys, again, that's going to be a very, very bearish sign that we're very likely going to continue down. And of course, my bias now, until we do get back up above 10,650, really, really back above 11,050. My bias is now going to be at least another test down here, 9,950. But as I said yesterday, if we did get that decisive break below 10,650, I'm going to be eyeballing this move down here to at least $9,400, if not lower, possibly down to 9,000. This prior order structure that was created back here on June 17th, 18th, and 19th. So that is the area that I'm eyeballing for now. Doesn't mean it has to happen. And again, I will point out we have not taken out the low. So technically, looking at the bigger picture, we are still creating higher lows. Again, so I know it's a little confusing. I know I don't mean to be like both analysts, guys, where I talk out of both sides of my mouth. So no matter what I say, I can fast forward into the future and say, see, I told you. I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to do that. I will sometimes, I will give you the bullish and bearish argument, guys, and that's all technical analysis is. It's basically telling you what to look for, so if something happens, you know how to plan. And having a plan basically is going to put you ahead of 99.999% of the traders out there. It's not about telling you exactly what's going to happen, even though technical analysis certainly does give you that edge. It's more about if this happens, then expect this, then prepare for this. It's more about planning than it is about having a crystal ball. All right, enough about that. Zooming out here to the daily, guys. Just to reinforce for those new subscribers, and by the way, if you are a new subscriber, welcome, guys, and for all you subscribers that have been with me for a while or have just joined, again, welcome to everybody. I appreciate your patronage. I appreciate you being loyal to the channel, guys. We've created a great community here, guys, and I just love the way you guys share some things in the comment section below. Always feel free to, and by the way, always feel free to challenge my thoughts and my biases, my theses. Always feel free to challenge those, guys, because that's what keeps us sharp. Iron sharpens iron. And, you know, if we're not challenging each other, then what are we doing here? You know, I always want to make sure I'm clear. I am not a perfect trader, as you guys know by now. I'm certainly not a perfect trader, guys. Yes, technical analysis gives me an edge. Yes, I've been able to do well, and hopefully this channel has helped some people, guys, but I am a constant student. I'm constantly learning, even from people. You'll notice that as I'm teaching you guys things, or as you ask questions and as I answer your questions, it often either reminds me of things that I've forgotten about in the past, or perhaps have even gotten wrong, and I have to go back and actually look at and challenge myself. So again, I am constantly learning, guys, so I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate all your comments and all your well wishes and all your positivity, guys. And even when you challenge me, even some of those that, I mean, yeah, just no question is a stupid question, and hopefully I try to be respectful to anybody, unless, of course, you're disrespectful to me, and then I have no time for you. But as long as you're respectful to me, even if you disagree with me, I will always, always be respectful back to you, and I will always be grateful for your comment. Anyway, don't know why I got off on that rabbit trail. Bottom line is, for those new subscribers, welcome, and welcome to my rabbit trails. If we go swing low, swing high, guys, we can see that we did bounce again right there at that $9,950 zone, which coincides very, very nicely with that 618 fib level, guys, the golden ratio. And of course, we can see we wicked just below it there, right inside that golden pocket between the 618 and the 65. That's known as the golden pocket, guys. Typically, that's oftentimes where you get a bounce, and that's where we're getting bounced now, and that's how we knew to respect this area. That being said, this $10,650 zone, even though we have now taken it out, it is obviously no longer acting as support. That doesn't mean it's irrelevant. Often what was support acts as resistance. So I want to see if on the way back up here we get a strong rejection at that $10,650 zone. If that does, that will confirm the bears completely taking over this market, and now the not the macro trend, but the more mid-level trend could be shifting in favor of the bears now. We know the micro trend has shifted in favor. Let's see if the kind of that mid-level between the macro and the micro is going to remain bearish. In other words, are we going to continue to the downside here? So I do look at this $10,650 zone as relevant. We can see that is lying right over almost to the dollar or the 50 fib level, guys. That's why it was acting as resistance in the, or excuse me, support in the past. Let's see if it can act as resistance now, or if it does. If we can get back above it again, I start to get a little more bullish here. In other words, I'll get a little more agnostic if we can get above 10,650. Until we get above that 10,650, I'm viewing this as the spike, or as the bounce that we knew it would be, and I'm looking for a continuation back down to the downside. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to take out 10,000, or really this 9,950 on the next pass. It may or may not. Again, this is a very, very strong zone. Again, anytime you're dealing with the 618 fib level, guys, or that that golden pocket, it is to be respected. So this thing could just kind of bounce right on top of this quite a few times before breaking down. We'll have to wait and see. Or it could bounce on the next pass. So again, and I know that's frustrating to hear from the analysts, guys. I'm just being honest with you. I'm just saying if and when we do get that decisive break below there, if and when we do get a 4-hour open and close below 9,950, the next stop is very likely going to be down here at 9,400, down to the lower 9,000s, maybe $9,050, somewhere in this prior area of consolidation. Zooming out on the daily, we can also see we have a very relevant ascending support line here, guys. We actually bounced perfectly, which is coinciding very nicely with that $9,950 zone. So again, a lot of support right in this area. Not surprising we got a bounce here, guys. But again, until we break back above 10,650, and really technical analysis says 11,050, until that does happen, the short-term trend is bearish, and I would be eventually looking for at least another test of 9,950. But again, eventually over time, breaking down to this $9,400 or $9,400 level. Now, if we grab our fib extension, and I go from our, we pivot from our swing high, we can also see we're getting some confluence where price bounced again right there at that $9,950 zone. That was the next major fib level at the 786, which again bouncing perfectly off that zone. And again, this would suggest if this does break down, the next major fib level is about 9,450. It'd be the 8865, and again that lines up very, very close to that $9,400 zone. So we are getting a lot of confluence. All right, checking our moving averages, exponential moving averages, guys. Bollinger Bands, looking at the 4-hour chart here, we can see bottom Bollinger Bands here getting stretched out. Did finally eventually find some support there, bounced off them a couple times. We are now trading back up above, briefly above the 8-period EMA on the 4-hour chart, guys. We do have a bearish setup now, all confirmed. We have the 55 above the 21, above the 8-period EMA on the 4-hour chart. That is a bearish setup. They are starting to fan out, guys, and of course we are coming back up and testing that. We are well below now or we are below, I should say, the 200 simple on the 4-hour, guys. Again, another very bearish sign for now. So we're coming back up. If we can test this and get back above the 200 simple, guys, that would be a temporary bullish sign. It would suggest we may be coming back up and probably revisiting 11,000. We'd have to wait and see if we got that decisive break above that 200 simple. If this 200 simple starts acting as resistance as it did back here, what was supports turned into resistance as it did back here, again, very, very bearish sign, and I'm going to look for a decisive break at least back down to that $10,000 zone, guys, and we'll have to wait and see kind of how that plays out. Let's go ahead and check the daily. Daily, we have now closed below that all-important 21-day EMA. As you guys know, it's an extremely important zone in my opinion. I told you if we did clear below that zone, guys, the next area we'd be watching is the 55 or the 50 simple, which were coinciding nicely with each other. Of course, it bounced perfectly off that zone, guys, testing the bottom Bollinger Bands here on the daily chart. Pardon me. We have not yet had a decisive break below the 21-day EMA. Remember, oftentimes when you get a decisive break below on the 21-day EMA, by decisive this time we're referring to a daily candle, both opening and closing below the 21-day EMA. We had a candle close, we've had a candle open, we have not had a candle open and close below the 21-day EMA. If and when that does happen, which may or may not happen today, I would say that the probability is probably in favor of that happening today. We'll have to wait and see. But if assuming that does happen, guys, historically that does signal at least a short-term temporary shift in momentum in favor of the bears, and again would support the theses that we are going to come back down and test that $9,400 zone. So let's wait and see how that ends up playing out. Certainly, if we do get a close, even a daily close below the 50 simple here, which also coincides with the 55 exponential, if we do get a daily close below that, again that would suggest coming back down and testing that $9,400 zone. Let's go ahead and check the weekly. Weekly also, weekly is really the last thing that's holding up for the bulls right now. The weekly 8 exponential is holding up for now. We are testing it for the first time since the week of June the 10th. We are testing that 8 weeks exponential moving average. If we do end up closing below that 8-week exponential moving average, which again is right around that $9,950 zone, really a little bit lower than that, 9,800. If we do end up testing or closing below that, guys, or dropping below that, of course, the chart would suggest a very quick drop down to about 9,000 here on the weekly at least, if not this 21 weekly exponential, which could bring us down to 8,000 over time. That would not happen, very likely would not happen very, very quickly, but it would suggest at least dropping down to that 9,000 zone, which again would also support that thesis that we may be dropping down to that 9,400 to that $9,000 zone, that prior area of consolidation on the daily. Most bullish thing I can say about this, guys, is we're looking at longs and shorts. Longs right now, we can see longs are slowly dropping off here, guys. Nothing too substantial, but they are slowly dropping off. That's which, again, in the big scheme of things, is not that big of a deal. But again, that you know. You would expect that when price drops a little bit, I guess you'd say. But we're also seeing shorts slowly start to drop off here. So, again, guys, not too much. Don't want to read too much into longs and shorts right now. They're really not telling us a whole lot. If anything, it is bearish. Checking our CME chart, we had CME open yesterday, guys. Obviously, when it opened, it did create this gap between about $11,630 and $10,050. So we do now have a fresh new gap. The CME is back to the upside. And again, this would actually probably be the most bullish thing we have, suggesting that price may want to come back up here and try to fill this gap before continuing to the downside. So you could look at this a couple different ways. You could look at this as bullish, or you could look at this as bearish. Bullish in the short term in that it may want to come back up and try to close this gap. But this gap suggests that we do now have a ton of unfilled sell orders that are sitting up here waiting to get filled. And if they do get filled, it is suggesting a major area of resistance here to the upside. So we may end up seeing, and again, this is a big may end up seeing price come back up here, try to close this gap, and then reject pretty hard coming back down to close this gap. Personally, my bias, not my bias, let me be very clear, what I would like to see happen, technical, and this has nothing to do with what I think is going to happen or what technical analysis says, just what I would like to see happen is I'd like to see price come back down here, close this gap at 8,500, then continue back to the upside. At that point, I would think this has a much greater chance of taking this out instead of this acting as resistance, taking this out to the upside and hopefully continuing up. If, in fact, we end up closing this gap first, then I'm going to be looking for a bounce at this gap and then continuation down to close this $8,500 gap. Again, that does not mean that has to happen, guys. And I know that's a little bit contrary to what I was saying. If we break above 11,000, I'll get temporarily bullish. When I said temporarily bullish, again, what I'm referring to is coming back up and testing that $11,500 zone. Or again, in this case, remember, there's a little bit of a difference between price on CME gap and price on spot charts here. So that would be about 11,500 on spot, 11,650 on the CME gap there. To close the two. So a little bit of a difference on price right now between the CME chart and spot charts here. That being said, the principle is still the same. So let's wait and see kind of how this plays out. Hopefully I'm explaining myself. I feel like it's a Monday morning and I'm not explaining myself very clearly, but hopefully that makes sense. So how am I playing this here in the short term? Playing this here in the short term, increased my stop loss here, looking to see if price rejects at that $10,650 zone. If we get a decisive break above $10,650, I'll be looking for a move back up to around 11,000, 11,100, somewhere thereabouts. If we do reject hard off this $10,650 zone, I'm going to be looking for a move back down to at least test this $9,950 zone. If that does break down, guys, of course, I'm going to be looking for that move somewhere between 9,400 and 9,000, this prior area of consolidation back here that we've had marked off for quite some time. So very, very, very careful, guys. I'm for the most part, guys, I'm being extremely conservative and waiting to see how this all ends up shaking out. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap Bitcoin there, quickly get to your questions. By the way, guys, if you would rather me get to your questions on a separate video and not do it in the same video as analysis, let me know that. It's a little more of a pain in the ass for me, but I don't mind it because I know some people don't like the longer videos. Let me know if you like that or if you like me to just cover the comments in all in one video, or if you want me to cover the comments at all. All right, JK says, I'm just wondering if you have a time machine working, perhaps 24-hour quick jump back and forth, and another great video, be honest. Won't tell anyone. Yeah, no time machine, man, just basic TA, but I appreciate your support, JK. Thank you. Robert Parrott says, thanks again. I've learned a great deal from you and started to make better trades, making some gains for a change. Cheers. Hey, cheers to you, Robert, man. I'm excellent. Glad to hear that, guys, and that's why we do this channel. Very, very glad. APL S Flatted, forgive me for mispronouncing you there, says, I just wanted to comment on your fantastic TA knowledge of classic TA, or fantastic knowledge of classic TA, and out of this world analytical abilities. I'm retired chief financial advisor, and listening to you and a dozen others, I came across somebody in this, I've never come across somebody this consistent with future outcomes and price levels of cryptocurrencies, mainly Bitcoin. If people listen to you carefully, perhaps a couple of times if needed, it should be easy for them to become a successful traders. All they need is minimum if they need it. Hey, I appreciate it. I don't mean to cut it off there, guys, but I get I really, really appreciate that, APL. Thank you very much for being part of this channel. Thank you very much for subscribing, and thank you very much for the positive feedback. Really, really feels good, man. Thank you. Kane says, your assessment of BTC support and resistance level have been pretty much spot on every video. You marked 10,060 and the price hovered around these levels for quite a while today before breaking down to the downside as you predicted. I'm beginning to wonder if you're a magician. Well, I'm going to go long when price hits 9,400, as you mentioned a couple times in previous videos. As I agree, this is a good level to bounce. May take a scalp opportunity of 9,950 on the first bounce. Hopefully you did take that scalp, Candy. If you did, you're doing very well, and thank you very much, my friend. John M says $10,124 this morning, Monday morning. Personally, I'd like to see third try in a high and then a breakdown. This is looking gnarly. Yeah, it is looking gnarly. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out there. Jay, such good. Hey, Sensei, I'm grateful for what you are teaching us. Thank you. If you could take a look at Bitcoin to the euro, may take a day. It would be. And I would be the happiest camper if you could give your thoughts on how horizontal lines would stack or would or should work in such a secondary market. I mean, a few months ago, the exchange rate was different, so it doesn't mean that the euro, or so does it mean the euro price can disrespect important line on its own charts? Well, you have to remember, let me take a look very quickly. Now, you have to remember that the US dollar and the euro exchange rate doesn't necessarily translate over into Bitcoin to the euro chart. And here's Bitcoin to the euro. What I mean by that is, this is Bitcoin trading against the euro, having nothing to do with the dollar. And then the Bitcoin traded to the US dollar is a completely separate pairing. So just because the exchange rate between the dollar and the euro varies, the chart between Bitcoin and the euro is still going to be the same. And it looks very, very similar to Bitcoin. Now, the actual numbers here are different, but the levels of support and resistance, I mean, this looks like a very, very similar chart to Bitcoin. Very, very similar. In fact, I could almost mark off exactly the same. I'm not going to here just for time purposes, but I mean, if I go swing low, swing high, we could see, yeah, I mean, we could see the 618 sitting right over the clear visual what should be support, what was resistance here in the past. We can see it bounce right off the 382, just like it did off the dollar there on Bitcoin 786. So I mean, whole lot of similarities here, and I would say this chart looks very, very similar to Bitcoin. I'm not going to sit here and chart it all out here because it would take too much time, but I mean, yeah, this chart looks very similar to Bitcoin. I think what you're really asking is, does the exchange rate between the US dollar and the euro have anything to do with the Bitcoin to the euro chart? And I would say no, it's a completely separate pairing. And just because the exchange rate fluctuates doesn't mean Bitcoin to the euro is going to fluctuate. Again, the United States dollar, and take it completely out of the picture, and this Bitcoin to the euro chart would be exactly the same. I mean, again, all things being equal, of course, if the dollar, I'm not saying if the dollar collapsed, the euro would collapse, etc., etc. But I'm just saying my point is the same. It's a completely separate pairing. Just like Bitcoin to Litecoin has nothing to do with the U.S. dollar necessarily to the to Bitcoin to Litecoin. I mean, again, some correlations because it gets a little bit convoluted. But my point is exactly, this chart looks very, 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 very similar to the Bitcoin chart, in that all the visual resistances and support and visual and support are the same on the pattern. Now, again, whatever you call it here off to the right, whatever, if it's 10,000 euros or that's $12,000, whatever, the pattern here is exactly the same. So you would draw out the support and resistance lines exactly the same, and then just come over here and translate that into the euro to see what that actually is. Hopefully I'm making sense there. And thank you for always stopping by, JH. Always good to hear from you, my friend. Felike says, fantastic. You have a new subscriber. Hey, welcome, Felike. Welcome to the channel, man. Glad to have you. Candy says, Bitcoin doesn't care about my feelings. Oh, quoting me, Bitcoin doesn't care about me. Bitcoin doesn't care about my feelings, man. but he goes on to say, hey, Workin, we do care about your feelings, which makes your viewers much better than Bitcoin. Hey, I agree, man. I've got some of the best viewers, best subscribers, in my opinion. I don't watch a lot of other channels, but in my opinion, you guys are just phenomenal. I'm very, very grateful to have you. CJ says, good afternoon, Working Crew. Good afternoon, CJ. Good to have you, man. Let's see. Rabbi says big pump to $4,200 coming. Sell order at $4,200, then crash to $12,500. Well, that didn't play out, man. But I wish it would have pumped to $4,200. Jay says if it tests to 8K region, I'm much more bullish than now. Means that she slowly grows out of this crazy childish behavior. I would like to see it test 8K as well, man. I see 10K, then 11K, and then 8.5K. Hey, and good call, dude. We are bouncing off that. We may get up to 11K. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, we knew it was going to bounce off that 10K. At least we thought. Question is, how high is it going to go off that bounce? And again, as I said, if we can break 10,650, I do decisively, I do think 11K is on the table there. And of course, yes, we could absolutely reject off 11K. It's not until we break above that 11,000, really 11,050 to 11,100. If we can get a decisive break above that, then I'll start to think we may be coming higher. But until we get that decisive break above 11,050-ish, then I'm going to completely agree, Jay, that 8.5 is going to be eyeballing at least 9,400. But good overall sentiment. Let's see. Wookie says, thank you, man. Mr. Sylvia, my pilot friend here, says, hey, Captain, your opinion guessing what the percent of going down to 9.4 would be. That would be sweet for loading up in the fiat altcoin. Yeah, again, as I answered your question, man, I don't really like to do percentages, and I don't like to give financial advice at all. And again, I mean, that would just be me pulling a number out of my butt. I really don't want to give percentages, but I would say now that we have broken down, I would say yes, that my bias definitely is shifting at least to another test of that $9,950 zone, if not that $9,400. And hopefully I've been pretty clear on that now. But hey, thanks for stopping by. Sophie says it's not possible that is it possible that we're in a massive bear trap right now, since every retail is looking for 9K to 8K levels? Yeah, I mean, the long to short chart, as I exposed, is not really showing that. I know that it seems like a lot of people are looking down at that $9,000 to $8,000 level, but we're not seeing it on the long versus short chart. So I'm not sure. Yes, I would say that if shorts were completely stacked here and longs were dropping, then I would agree with you. But right now, it looks like retail is still betting on a bounce. So let's wait and see kind of how this ends up playing out. But it certainly is possible. Of course, it's possible. CJ says, much thanks. Have a good weekend. Thank you, CJ. Brian, why does the gap have to fill? As I explained, Brian, it's very, very psychological. I've explained a lot about this in the past. Basically, gaps denote major areas of on the CME gap he's talking about. And gaps denote major areas of support and resistance, which all support and resistances are major areas of buys or likely buy orders or sell orders, depending on what we're talking about. They call those, for buy orders, they call those demand zones. For sell orders, they call those supply zones. And those are also called support and resistance, respectively, or resistance and support, respectively. But why do they have to get filled? It's very psychological. Markets like to have closure. And anytime there's a gap, there's a sense that there is not closure, and there's a sense there's a lot of buy or sell orders, depending on the case that we're talking about. And then price seems to kind of, some people say it works like a magnet. I hate using that cliche terms, but price does seem to kind of flow towards that to get that resolution on that. And I'll call that a bias, call that confirmation bias, call that just crazy market psychology, where people maybe consciously or unconsciously are looking at the same thing, and therefore price gets driven down there. There's 1,000 reasons as to why I could get into as to why those gaps happen to be filled, and different gaps also vary as well, to be fair. Not all gaps are equal, but percentage-wise, nothing has to get filled. It doesn't have to get filled. It just oftentimes does, and that's why everybody is watching that. Let's see. Rubab Sadiq says, as always, Workin, as always, awesome one, man. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. But I'm not very good at graphs analysis. If you could summarize it in normal language like you did in this video, it would be really appreciated. I also, what's your say about XLM? If you could shed some light on XLM. Let me take a look at XLM real quick. All right, I don't know if you want me to look at Stellar to the dollar or to Bitcoin. Looking at Stellar to the dollar on the daily, did look like we have a ascending broadening wedge, at least for the most part. That typically does break bearish. It has broken out there, guys. The target on that would be the bottom of this zone, which is right around here. We have not quite reached it. We are hitting a prior area of support, so I would say until it decisively breaks below about, we'll see if it can bounce off this zone, about 0.0872. If it can, it may bounce off this zone. We'll see. If it does decisively break below about 0.872, then I would say the next stop is very likely going to be around 7, not 0.0770, somewhere there about, not 0.070. It is threatening to drop that low. I will just say it's threatening to drop that low. Let me take a look at the weekly. Yeah, weekly doesn't look good. Oh man, yeah. If in this that does look like a good area, about 0.07 Did I say 7.0? If I apologize if I said 7.0, I'm looking at 7 cents. If it drops down below about point 0.07, if it drops below that, things could get very bearish. But that was major area of resistance. Looks like it may potentially be a major area of support if and when it does get down there to that 0.07, 7 cents. So let's wait and see how it gets down. Right now, we are finding some support at 0.084 cents. So let's wait and see. We do need to get above 0.096. If we can get a decisive break above 0.096, at that point, I will think it takes a shot at. It could potentially actually take a shot at 0.112, 11.2 or 11 cents. 11.2 cents, however you want to say that, 0.112. Let's just put it that way. But right now, not looking great. Let's quickly look at it to Bitcoin. To Bitcoin, yeah, we do. Man, I haven't drawn this chart in a while, and it actually did play out very, very well. Does look like we have a massive falling wedge here. May end up playing out here just a little bit further here, getting squeezed tighter and tighter. This would suggest a break back to the upside if this is in fact correct, but it doesn't mean it can't break down lower first, and I would be looking, this would suggest a drop down to about 720 Satoshi. Unfortunately, maybe about another 120 Satoshi drop here. And then, of course, we may be looking for a breakout. And if, in fact, this is a breakout, if it does break to the upside, I need it to take out about 950 Satoshi. If we take out 950 Satoshi, I think it'll be a very quick rise to about 1,390 Satoshi. But that's a very, very big if, so we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. All right, Anthony Calvo says, I shorted and set my profit margin at 11K. I hope that all things will bounce back. Thanks for your work working. Hey, thank you, Anthony. And you shorted down to 11. I think that's what you're saying there, and congratulations if you did. Obviously, that played out well. I'm assuming you shorted from what, about 11.5, something like that. So if you did close at, even if you closed at 11, that's a smart trade, man. No problem there at all. Even if you closed at 11, looks like we may be coming back up and testing that. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But either way, you'd be in profit, and very, very nice trade. Congratulations. And it's great to have you here, Anthony. 10 very intelligent level says, here we go, bros. Cool, bro. Market, let's see, crypto market ready to crash. Too much pressure, keep building. Keep an eye on Tether News. They lied to the SEC many times. U.S. government doesn't want Bitmain and Binance taking all your money to China. Yeah, I don't know how much that Tether News is going to play out. I honestly think, personally, my opinion is Tether is probably going to make it through this thing. I don't know that, of course. You know, it's all speculation at this point, and I'm not going to speculate until we have some concrete news. As far as the SEC and U.S. government not wanting your money to go to China, that's obviously true. Now, whether or not that's translated into Bitcoin, I don't know. I will say it's going to be interesting to see if and when Binance finally opens their U.S. customer exchange. I wouldn't be surprised to see a few surprises in the way there, but I could be completely wrong. We'll have to wait and say. Again, that's just all speculation, and I hate speculation. John Lecter says, thanks for working. I totally agree. What do you think about this scenario? We'll drop to about 10.1, 10.2, probably a swift revisit of 9.6 to 9.8 before taking off short-term, fast move to 11.7, 14K, then volatile move back down to 8.5 region to clear the gap before the next run. I think if we do end up climbing, yeah, I mean, obviously we're getting a bounce to that 10K. I do think, yeah, very likely if we do end up breaking down below that 10, of course, I think it'll go down as low as 9.4. As far as in the short term, before that happening, coming back up to 14K, I think if we did test 14K, which would be the prior $13,850 high, I think we would probably take it out at that point. I think the bullish momentum would be in favor. We'd probably take it out, and that's a big if. I don't see that happening right now. But if we did, I do think that it would probably take it out, and then I would be looking for a rejection somewhere in the upper 14,000, 14,800, 14,900, 14,800, 14,900, somewhere thereabouts, maybe 14,700. If that gets taken out, I think 16,200 very, very likely on the table, and I would be looking for a very strong rejection around that $16,200 area for a larger correction, especially if we get up there having not taken out that $8,500 zone first. So again, and I don't mean to focus too much on gaps, guys. It's just something that I would like to see happen. But Bitcoin doesn't care about what it likes. So I'm going to wrap things there, guys. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, would appreciate an upvote. If you have enjoyed this content, guys, please remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell in the bottom right-hand corner, guys. Until next time, please take care of yourselves. This is Workin, signing out.